We all have an ego. It's an intrinsic part of our human experience, shaping how we see ourselves and interact with the world. It's that inner voice, constantly chattering, evaluating, and comparing. It never seems to rest, always on the lookout for ways to assert itself. Our ego wants to protect us, to make us feel safe and important. It builds walls around us, creating a sense of security and self-worth. But often it does the opposite. Instead of shielding us, it can amplify our frustrations and magnify our emotional turmoil. It traps us in a cycle of insecurity, defensiveness, and fear. These emotions can become overwhelming, dictating our reactions and interactions. Our ego thrives on external validation. It seeks out approval from others, constantly needing to be reassured of its worth. It craves praise and shies away from criticism. Compliments are like fuel, while criticism feels like a threat to its existence. This constant need for approval can make us hypersensitive to others' opinions and actions. We become overly concerned with how we are perceived. We start taking things personally, even when they're not intended that way. Innocent remarks can feel like personal attacks. Imagine this: a colleague makes a passing comment about your presentation style. It might be a simple observation, but your ego interprets it as criticism. A friend forgets your birthday. Instead of understanding, your ego feels slighted and unappreciated. Your partner seems distant one evening. Your ego jumps to conclusions, assuming the worst. These everyday occurrences can trigger our ego, making us feel hurt, angry, or inadequate. The emotional response can be intense and consuming. But what if we could step back from these emotional reactions? What if we could see them for what they are, just the ego's way of protecting itself? What if we could learn to observe our ego without letting it control our behavior? This awareness can bring a sense of peace and clarity. That's the journey we'll embark on together, understanding and ultimately conquering our ego. By doing so, we can lead more fulfilling and authentic lives. When we take things personally, we allow external events to dictate our internal state, giving them power over our emotions. A casual remark becomes a personal attack, even if it was never intended that way. A forgotten birthday equates to a lack of love, making us feel unappreciated and neglected. We build elaborate narratives in our minds, often assuming the worst about others' intentions, creating unnecessary drama. This habit of personalizing everything can have detrimental effects on our well-being, leading to chronic stress and emotional exhaustion. It fuels anxiety, resentment, and conflict in our relationships, making it hard to communicate effectively. We become defensive and reactive, pushing away the very people we care about, creating a barrier to intimacy. Research shows that a strong ego is linked to increased stress and lower levels of happiness, affecting our overall quality of life. When our sense of self-worth is fragile, we become overly dependent on external validation, constantly seeking approval. This leaves us vulnerable to criticism and easily thrown off balance by life's inevitable challenges, making us feel inadequate. Taking things personally is a trap, a vicious cycle that keeps us stuck in negativity and prevents us from experiencing true connection and joy, isolating us further. But there is a way out, a path to emotional freedom and resilience. By understanding the mechanics of our ego, we can begin to dismantle its hold on us, paving the way for personal growth and healthier relationships. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It involves being fully present and aware of where we are and what we're doing. It's about observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without getting swept away by them. This means acknowledging them without letting them dictate our actions. In the context of ego management, mindfulness is a powerful tool. It helps us to recognize when our ego is taking control and allows us to step back. When we feel our ego flaring up, that rush of anger, hurt, or defensiveness, we can pause. This pause is crucial in preventing us from reacting impulsively. We can notice those feelings without immediately reacting to them. This awareness gives us the power to choose our response. This pause creates a space, a buffer between our emotions and our actions. It allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than react instinctively. Think of mindfulness as a muscle that strengthens with practice. The more we engage in mindfulness, the more resilient we become. The more we train ourselves to observe our thoughts and feelings, the less reactive we become. This practice helps us to maintain our composure in challenging situations. We begin to see our ego's narratives for what they are, stories we tell ourselves, not necessarily the truth. This realization is liberating. Mindfulness allows us to detach from our ego's grip. It gives us the clarity to see things as they are, not as our ego wants them to be. We can choose how we want to respond to situations, rather than being controlled by our automatic reactions. This choice is empowering. It's a journey of self-discovery, of learning to relate to ourselves and the world around us with greater compassion and understanding. This journey is ongoing and ever-evolving, leading to a more balanced and fulfilling life. Sometimes the most profound growth happens when we step outside of ourselves. By letting go of our ego, we can truly see the world through a different lens. It's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it. Many wise individuals have walked this path before us. Their experiences and insights can guide us in our own journey to conquer our ego. By learning from their stories, we can find the strength to persevere and grow. Imagine the freedom that comes with an unburdened heart. When we release the weight of our ego, we open ourselves up to genuine connections and a deeper sense of peace. It's a journey worth taking, one step at a time.